What's good? What's good? My last two videos have kind of been discussing my depression and associated subjects, and it's all connected. So, this video is titled Maximum Justice, Minimum Violence, the Ideal Timeline to Manifest. I'm kind of one of those hippie people that I don't know how to manifest, but I think there's something to it. I think like your mindset does play a huge role in the whole co-creating reality experience. And so part of my depression is linked to my awakening journey, I guess, that a lot of people can relate to. And so before there was woke, there was awake. The iterative process of replication throughout the decades has replaced being awake with being woke, unfortunately so. Because in that process, things have been diluted and misconstrued, which has put us in this position now where there is no real clear side of good. And I mean that because while I shit on the left a lot, I'm not a fan of the right either. It is a highly unfortunate situation I find myself in, needing to align with some of these people, but I do not want to be affiliated with them too much. And this is unfortunately, as I always talk about, intentional. This is the divide and conquer tactics of the social engineers, because a divided people are easier to rule. It's freaking a tactic that's thousands of years old. This is nothing new. Like the idea of manipulating humanity through psychological mechanisms is not like a new thing. It's not like the CIA created mind control. No, mind control has been around for thousands of years. Uh, we could talk about religion, Christianity, Islam, um, Judaism, forms of mind control. And so I like to think that I am on an awakening path. I have rough ideas of when it started and all of that. And I know it's kind of cliche. Like, I totally acknowledge that it's a little cliche and cringe, but I accept and acknowledge my path. And part of this path that many people have walked includes seeing things, not like hallucinations or visions, but seeing patterns. Like I had just talked about, the divide and conquer. That is a pattern. That is a pattern that has been replicated throughout history and utilized. We see these things and we connect these dots. And so that's one reason I'm so hugely interested in like philosophy and anthropology and sociology, because when you can see historical patterns, you can help try to navigate the future, right? And when we're talking about manifesting a future timeline, it is important to understand how we can manipulate our own reality. And we need to understand how our reality has been hijacked and is being manipulated by evil forces. And so while I often talk about the last 3 years as a great example of crimes against humanity, as a great example of how we're being controlled, how we're being manipulated, how we're being ruled by psychopaths, that's not like the first and only example. That is just the most recent and blatant example. I harp on that and I focus on that because it is so clear and so blatantly obvious, the whole hoax. And so now, as they're getting more and more desperate because people are waking up, They're um, they're doing okay. Hold on, I want to stop. I like how this video is gone, but I don't want to end it, so I'm going to try and redirect back to the violence portion. Okay, so maximum justice, minimum violence. We need to hold these people accountable, but how do we do that? How do we ethically and morally do that? I think about this often because, unfortunately, bringing back the things that I see a reality where we will need to utilize some violence. I'm not advocating for any specific action right now. This is not an incitement to violence. This is me predicting the future in a sense. Me just based on what I am able to see. But if we can do so in a way where it is very, very minimal, I think that is best for how we hold these people accountable. I won't name names, but I think maybe, really, I do think there should be a few public hangings. I think the very top, some of the very top people should absolutely be publicly hung. Um, it would be your choice whether or not you want to watch it. But I think it needs to happen. That message needs to be sent that traitors and treasonous, evil people who commit crimes against humanity will be dealt with. Now, where I go crazy, not where I go crazy because I'm already crazy. Y'all know that. But what I think about often is what I'm trying to say is how do we implement that? Because that requires somebody to use force, the executioner, which throughout history, there have been people who have played that role. And if you understand humanity, you understand that there are some people who are capable of playing that role. And when I talk about my thoughts on violence, I don't know if I'm capable of playing such a role. Like, I don't like violence. I don't relish the thought of violence. I don't like, I'm not an MMA guy. I'm not like, it doesn't hype me up, but it doesn't mean I'm afraid of it. And it doesn't mean that I'm against it. Violence is something that's very neutral to me. I have an understanding of it somewhat to a degree. And I think as men, a lot of us wrestle with these thoughts because we understand that we are capable of violence, but we understand that that's not acceptable. Um, but then it harkens back to like our primitive protect and provide instincts. Men and women are different, and we have been, and I talked about anthropology, right? We evolved to protect our families. So violence is something that is embedded within our DNA. And as modern and civilized men, it is our duty to assess that and compartmentalize it. Now we're getting into psychology and like Carl Jung. Okay, let's try and wrap up the video. I would like to meet Tulsi Gabbard because I just feel like she's real. I'm very open to being wrong. I'm very open to being wrong. But I would like to meet her and I would like to talk to her because I feel like some portions of our military are not corrupt. And I feel like that would be the best path to execute these criminals who have been perpetuating crimes against humanity. And I think that's the route we go. I think that's where we get the justice and the use of violence combined in a way that is compartmentalized for us to move forward as a society. I'm not saying she would be the executioner, but I'm saying she would have the connections within the military to conduct such an operation morally and ethically. Or that's what I feel. But that's why I want to meet her and talk to her. But I really think that's the best way we handle this. Sort of like a Nuremberg 2.0. The Nuremberg trials harkening back to World War II, Nazi Germany, and their crimes against humanity. It doesn't have to be Tulsi. It could be someone else. I don't know. That's just me and my what I see. I want to talk to her. But anyways, I'm gonna wrap up the video there. Thank you for listening. Much love, y'all.